Hello, today I want to talk to you about don't beat yourself up. You might be in this terrible relationship where the person is some type of psychopath narcissist, where they're just really using you for their pleasure. You might be a placeholder until they can find the person or the object or whatever it is that they're going to use to fulfill their fantasy. Because a lot of these people look great on the surface, right? They've got you fooled, they've got your family fooled, your friends fooled, all the people in the church, all the people in the community, right? Everybody thinks this is Mr. Nice Guy, but you know them for who they are because they are manipulative, they're abusive, right? They're neglectful. They do all of these things to you behind closed doors. I know one time in my life when I was with a really smart, psychopathic guy when I was younger, I used to just tell myself, I wish he would hit me. I wish he would hit me, because then I would have evidence to tell people look, here's the evidence. I have this bruise. But I used to say, no, he was way too smart in order to hurt me physically, because his abuse was psychological, emotional, right? So that's what these guys do. They know that there's a certain image that they want to project into the world, and they're not going to they're not going to let the world know. They're not going to become exposed. So everything that they're doing to you is just between you and them, right? Behind those closed doors. So what can happen is that's part of the dynamic of the trauma bond, because what you see is this one side of them that's absolutely wonderful. They're showcasing to the world. Everybody loves them. You've got hardcore evidence that this person is fabuloso, right? And they initially love bombed you, so you were the recipient of that love. That guy used to give me flowers every week, these expensive flowers. He would bring me crystal every week, just showered with adoration, gifts, these types of things, right? So they're going to love bomb you and show you that unlimited favor that they're showing the rest of the world. So you had a taste of that apple. And if you're somebody who has come from complex trauma yourself, childhood trauma, you're hungry for that apple. You're hungry for that affection and that adoration. So you're gonna eat that up like that is yummy porridge, right? And so that's the hook, right? They get you hooked. They learn about you. We know the drill. And then that's when they begin that whole discard, that devaluation of you. And so there's the trauma bond. But the trauma bond, it also needs, on top of that hot and cold, that love and hate side, it also needs for them to have power. They have to exert dominance over you for it to really set in and be that trauma bond. They'll get you to not work and live under their roof, under their control, because now you're their subject, right? And now you're kind of in their claws. You're stuck. And so there's that trauma bond, and you're wondering, is it me? They once loved me. Confusion, right? Confusion rules the day. And who is the father of confusion? That's right, the devil, the father of lies, the one that's behind this person, the spirit that's moving behind this person. What does the Bible say? We got to get clear. We got to get clear. We got to come closer to the truth. The closer you come to the truth, the more you'll be set free. Okay? So what does the Bible say? That you judge a tree by its fruits. Okay? And this person's fruits, because you're eating the fruit, right? You're living it. You're sampling off that apple. And it is deadly, right? It is killing you. It's suppressing you. It's making you feel terrible about yourself. It's making you disassociate. It's keeping you up all night. It's putting anxiety, depression, right? Maybe substance abuse. You're trying to escape your own paradigm, right? So you're going through all of this trouble. So that's the truth of who they are, right? right? So because you're wondering, like, is this person good? Is this person bad? Should I stay? Should I leave? Like, what is it, you know? And then what happens is the enemy comes in and tells you it's all your fault. And if that is a story that's been told to you your whole life, right? Like when I was little, like mom used to say, I love mom, like I took care of her when she was older. But there was some harm that was done as a child. And what she would say was, you kids, you're the reason I drink. Okay, so when there's something bad going on in the house, well, whose fault is it? Oh, that's right, it's mine. So when this situation's going on with this toxic person and they're doing all of their nonsense, right? Whose fault is it? Echoing from, you know, my childhood? Oh, that's right, it's my fault. And this toxic person is trying to blame it on you, right? Like, they don't want accountability. They don't want to have these little discussions that you're trying to have. They don't want to be trying to hear what you're saying about what it is, these you know, perverted things that they're doing. That they're not trying to hear it. They're trying to cover it, right? They don't want anybody to know. And they're going to say, like, no, look at how the world loves me. Look at how I am with this person. Look at how I am with that person. I'm able to have all these healthy relationships with people. You know, the only person that I have an unhealthy relationship with is with you, Heather. So therefore it's you, it's your fault. And you're like, yeah, you know, they get along with these people. They're really successful. You know, they can handle all these big projects at work and, you know, all this and that. And they're close to this person and that person. And so surely it has to be me. But no, God love you, dear ones. God love you. No, it's not. And that's why I believe that understanding the attachment theory is helpful, because that helped me to be set free, right? The more information you have, the more you can arm yourself against the schemes of the devil, okay? I think the more you're able to be set free. So back in the day, right? Back in the day, there used to be like adoption agencies and stuff, like the bombing of London and whatnot. Lots of kids were in orphanages, and they began to really do some research. And there was this guy, Bowlby. He's the one that came up with the attachment theory, and he had hired this lady, Mary Ainsworth, and she went on to do some really great work. And she's the one that began to in what was called the strange situation. She had observed some children in Uganda, and she came up with those titles, the real titles of like the secure, attached, the anxious, the avoidant, these types of things, when she was observing these children when they were 1 year old. But before that time frame, Bowlby and Ainsworth really had to fight against the establishment, because what was going on is back then there was a psychiatrist who was named Watson, and his kind of methodology was pervasive for the day. The government had even sent out flyers telling everybody, like, this is what you need to do. And what the belief was at that time, and this is what they saw in the orphanages when they were looking at the children as well, when they did their studies in the orphanages. But what the leading psychology at the day was saying was to not touch your children. Watson actually said that the more attention you gave your child, the more damaging it was. Like, how crazy is that, right? And that the government sent flyers out saying, like, hey, you know, here's the memo, kids, like, don't pick up your children. Let them go in the other room, like, separate them and let them cry it out. And you know, if you have to give them attention, if you have to give them love, like give them a kiss on the forehead before they go to bed at night. If they've done something like really great, some sports event or whatever, like give them a pat on the head. Like, this is what Bowlby and Ainsworth were fighting against, because the thought process was that children were just little blobs. And who did this come from? Of course it came from Darwin. Darwin's theories back then was, you know, that it's 100% based on the DNA, right? There was that nature versus nurture argument back in the day. And Darwin came along. Locke was the one who was saying that it was nurture, that it was your environment and things of this nature, that played a role. But it was Darwin who came along and said, nah, it's just your DNA. And so this kind of like stemmed from that, where children are just blobs, you know, because that's how we kill babies, right? They're just little blobs in your belly, just cells, right? So this is kind of like what the thought process was, even in adolescence, right? When they were little like babies. they just said they were little blobs. And Watson even said, like, hey, I can control a person and make who they are by just controlling the levers, basically. And he had like several children, and they ended up like killing themselves and stuff. It's a horrific scene for that. But you know, he later came and said, like, I should have never written anything because it was clear I didn't understand anything. But he still did that harm. And all of the people in the psych industry were saying that, no, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't have to love your children. You just like feed them. And the experiment with the monkey, if you remember that one, right? There was a monkey, they had put the experiment, and one was like a wire monkey, and they had put a bottle with that to feed the monkey, and the other one didn't have food, but it was like cloth. And so the monkey would go and feed, obviously it had to eat, but it would spend the rest of the day with the cloth monkey. And so that helped people. And Bowlby was studying too, animals in the wild, because there used to be like a lot of documentaries on animals with and what they saw was that the baby monkeys would touch. They wanted proximity, okay, to their parent, as well as connection, touching. And so that was what Bowlby used as proof that babies, here's what he was saying, is that babies are hardwired for connection. They're hardwired to have intimacy. And they said they were basically trying to prove that babies cried because they wanted picked up, because they were signaling to their caregiver that they wanted connection with the outside world, okay? And all of the researchers in the day were like, oh, you're crazy, you know? So the work that, like I said, Ainsworth did in Uganda was what really like flipped the script, and she was able to prove their what they were telling everybody, basically. And what happened was, when the child was like 1 year old, they took the mother and the child, they put them in this room that nobody knew, right? It was just like this little place that the child had never been before. And they had some toys in there. And what she did was she let the parent be with the child for a little bit, and then she told the parent to leave. And they left for, I don't know, just a couple of minutes, whatever. Enough time to get the child like somewhat distressed, but not like horrifically distressed, right? That they're just trying to do research, not kill the kid, right? But so the child gets distressed, and then the parent comes back in, the mother comes back in. And what she found is that the securely attached, and this is where the labels came from, the securely attached child, okay, cried when the mother was gone, but when the mother came back, they came and they hugged the mom, and making contact, close proximity, touching. And then the mother was able to successfully like calm the child down. The mother was able to calm the child down. The child was able to be comforted by the mother. And then now he went back into exploration. And that's the big thing about attachment, is when the mother gives love to the child, okay, the child feels secure with her in that close proximity, so that he's safe enough to actually go into the world, okay, and explore. This is where exploration comes from. So the child that isn't loved, right, is insecurely attached, is still having trouble in close proximity with touch and proximity. And so now they're not able to go into the world and explore, right? And that's the limiting. That's where they're cut off, right? That's where their growth is stunted. But anyhow, back to the study. So the securely attached child can, in short order, go back to playing. And especially when she did this at 18 months, that time frame for the securely attached child for needing that contact and close proximity was even shortened. It gets shorter as the child gets older, because that trust has already been developed between the child and the mother. But okay, so back to this. Now, there were some children that the mother left, the mother comes back, and the child is flipping out, right? And the child continues to be upset and still crying, even though the mother is back, whereas the securely attached one stopped crying. And now this child is clingy, super clingy, and won't be put down. And the child is like upset, arching its back, doesn't kind of want to be touched by the mother. But then eventually then the child is comforted, okay? And that child she described as anxious, okay? Well, she called it actually ambivalent, but now it's called anxious. So at any rate, so that was your anxiously attached child who had trouble because the mother came back and she didn't see the mother as a secure base, right? So this mother was sometimes comforting and sometimes not comforting. So the child couldn't trust, like, are you really the one that I can trust? Are you really going to be there for me? Okay, and this is where this anxious attachment comes from later in life, where us as adults, we are in relationships with people, but we never really trust them because we're like, you're the one, you're my caregiver, essentially, who sometimes shows me love and sometimes doesn't show me love. And some attachment circles, that's called that vacillation, right? Where you vacillate between the two. And so as much as that child wanted that love from that parent, they weren't able to feel the trust and security to actually be comforted by that person. Even though the mother was like trying to comfort them in the presence of these people in this study, the child knew, like, you don't always comfort me, so I can't trust you. So there's where that bond is like not able to be truly established. And that's what happens with anxiously attached people as we are adults, right? We like trust you, but we kind of don't. Like we need a little bit more data. We need, and that's why we're like hyper vigilant, hyper observant, because we're watching for you to see, can I truly trust you? Right? And so trust is a big issue. And even in subsequent studies with the anxiously attached person, they struggle to make connection. They struggle to make relationships. They were able, of all of the types of insecurely attached people, they're the ones that are able to make the best connections of the insecure ones. They do better with securely attached people. Because what happened was the securely attached children had so much basically tricks and tools in their own little toolbox that they were able to basically compensate for the deficiencies of the anxious attached child, right? The securely attached person could like overcome. They could figure out a situation to get that child to play with them and kind of have like a good time. And so that's the anxious attached child. But now in this study, going back, like, this is probably so confusing. But at any rate, okay. So here we are in this study in Uganda with the child who is insecurely attached. So the mother goes out, the mother comes back. Okay, child's flipping out, of course, right? So the mother comes back, and now here it is. The child cried when the mother left. And so the mother comes back, and the child like looks at her, but keeps on doing what the child's doing. He doesn't break from it. He doesn't go to her. He doesn't go to get a hug. Remember, proximity and touching are what are essential in development, in early childhood development. It's all about proximity and contact. So here there's a child who is absolutely upset that the parent left, still upset that the parent left, but when the parent comes back, doesn't care. Just sits there, continues to do what he's doing, like, yeah, I know you're here. This is the avoidant. This child is the one who the caregiver, okay, when they did the studies and all this stuff, this caregiver was the one who really never showed up and was present for that child, right? When the child cried, the parent wasn't really never there. Or what they also showed is that sometimes when the child showed up, when the parent showed up for this child, it was never consistent, and it was never in a way that like made sense for the child. Did you ever have that? Did you ever have somebody like you need help, and the person comes and they're like offering their help, but it doesn't work, and you get frustrated and you're like, just get out of here, like you've made this more difficult than helping. So that's what like the parent of the avoidant child does. They're like not showing up at all. So the kid just cries it out. So this child just really stops. Everything is blunted. And they no longer even seek proximity or touch because it's never been there. Okay. And so that's your avoidant child. And so that could be that person that you're dating, right? They don't seek that intimacy. They don't seek that connection with you. You're trying, like the mother, when she came back, she was trying to make contact with this kid, right? But it's getting hot in here. But so she's trying to make that connection, and she's trying to show love, but the kid is just like so shut down, so turned off, so over it, that he's like, I've already learned self-coping mechanisms, and I'm not even going to trust and rely on you. I don't want proximity. I don't want touch with you, because what that has done is that has destroyed me, right? I am so cut off from human development, right? That I no longer even trust people. Like the trust level is so severely broken that they just basically abandon it. So as these children get older, right, as these studies show, because these are based on longitudinal studies, they looked at these children throughout time. You know, they came back with a frequency in these studies over the years. And what they found was that the avoidant children not only did that separation when it came to play, when they're, you know, like maybe 11 years old, or they're in the playground, they've grown up a little bit, right? But there were problems all the way. They remained avoidant the whole way. But what began to really manifest, even at like 5 years old and younger years, is those avoidants became angry, right? They became bullies, right? They were the ones that were pushing kids, verbally abusing other children, acting out aggressively. And remember I told you how the securely attached children, well, securely attached children can play with securely attached children. They did a study and they showed that, where, you know, they had these poles, they had to carry stuff. And when they put the securely attached children together, they were able to accomplish the task, because they got a leader, they got a plan, they stuck to the plan, there was synchronicity, everybody did everything at the same time. They worked together cohesively. But when they put avoidant children together in this like study, nothing worked out. It actually turned into like a big brawl. They were actually fighting each other, and there was name blaming, you know, name calling, and they were blaming each other. It wasn't my fault, it was your fault. There was no cohesion. Like they never got a plan. And like, you know, so like these 8 kids had to carry this thing together, and if they would have just worked together and worked in unison, like the securely attached people, the project would have been able to be carried out. But like what would happen is like 3 kids would work together and try and carry it. Well, then all the kids would fall because the other children weren't participating. They weren't on the same page, right? So it all came crumbling down. And so this is how in avoidance interact. They're beating to their own drum. There's something that they're not like picking up on in the room, like, you know, hey, you know, I need to join in with this group. They were often found over by themselves in the corner, playing by themselves, you know, not interacting with other children, anything like this. But when there was interaction, it was disruptive. That's the important thing here. And it was bullying. They would lie, they would cheat, they would steal. They would have like temper tantrums. The studies were showing like there was really adolescent behavior that was manifesting from these kids. But they were the bullies. And the securely attached children, like I said, were able to play with one another, but they were able to work with the anxious attached children, as you know, clingy and anxious as they were. But the securely attached children did not like the avoidance. They didn't like them. They were pushing them out. Teachers didn't like them because they were the bad kids. They were the bullies. They were the ones that were name calling. They were the ones that were hitting other children. They were doing all this disruptive behavior. Okay, so when they didn't make contact, but when they did make contact, it was aggressive. It wasn't good. So that's what you're experiencing with your avoidant you know, covert or overt narcissists, whatever you want to call them. They may be psychopathic. If they're psychopathic, that means they just have no empathy. They just don't give a shit. They're just doing what they're doing. They need their narc supply, and you're just, you know, you're just a source of whatever they're getting, right? You're just a source. You're just a supply for something. You don't matter, right? And the psychopath absolutely knows what they're doing. They're honing their craft, right? So I don't know what level of deviance that you're working with there, but my point is that the enemy is going to tell you it's your fault, just like me when I was little. It's your fault that I do these things. If I didn't have you, if you weren't alive, my life would be better, right? If you would be a better child, maybe, then my life would be better. So you're the problem, right? So that's why you're doing this dance. You're trying to be skinnier, you're trying to be prettier, you're trying to be funnier, you're trying to be sexier, you're trying to be more sexually promiscuous. You're playing the game. You're trying to feed their narc supply and however they want it, right? Whatever deviance level that they're at, you're trying to like play that part. And you're like, if I just get to that level with this deviance in this person, then I'll be loved. Then it'll go back to like that love bombing where everything is okay. And it's not going to be. Like, this is what I'm trying to tell you by these studies. This child did not develop properly. And for their entire life, they have been manifesting these bad attributes because they no longer trust human interaction. And so they want that interaction. Like, remember, when the mother left, the child cried. So they're hungry for it, but they don't trust it enough. And so they're going to act with harm towards this person because they're like, listen, you have something that I want, which is your love and your affection. But I have been so crushed in my life and my experiences that I will not in any way allow you to have access to my heart. Okay, so I'm going to dominate you. I'm going to control you. And as long as I've got you by the neck, essentially, right? I can get a little bit of affection from you, whatever level I'm willing to go to, right? To have quote, quote, intimacy with you. I'm going to take that from you, but it's going to be a power dynamic where I am in control. I'm going to get it when I want it. I'm going to get it the way that I want it. And you have no rights to come in and say anything, because if you bring your rights and your feelings, your needs, whatever it is that you have, that's power over me, and I'm not trying to have it, right? So this person, for however old they are, they have been exhibiting this behavior, right? And this has helped keep them feel safe. This is their safety, domination, okay? And cherry picking what affection and intimacy they're willing to accept from another human being, but it's all 100% under their command, okay? So you're just one, and this is, hard to hear, but it's necessary, because the closer you get to truth, the better off you'll be, right? The more you'll be set free. You're just one more cog in the wheel. Like, my name's Heather. Like, I was in that abusive situation with that person, right? That avoidant, that narcissist, that psychopath. I've been there, right? But now that I'm out, like, Susie is going to be there. Once Susie's done, then it's going to be, Jill. It's going to be whoever, right? Like, it's not you in particular. It's not because you're not enough. It's because they have tremendous problems. They need Jesus. The only research, okay, and all of the psychology, all of that stuff out there, nobody can help these people. They are just to be institutionalized, and that is it, right? Imprisoned, whatever. Let's put their names on a list, put a big picture out there. This person is a criminal against society. There's nothing we can do but incarcerate them. And if they're at large in the community, the only thing we can do is try and protect people by making them aware of these individuals, right? There's no help for them. But listen, Jesus Christ is the way. So if you're that person, you may believe and the world may tell you that you're stuck to be this way, but Jesus Christ can reform you. Jesus Christ can heal this. Jesus Christ can stop all this. His arm his arm isn't too slack. He's not too far away. He's here. And he wants to restore. He does not like this brokenness. He's the kinsman redeemer. So he can come in and clear back to that childhood, okay? Because God's been healing me of my anxious attachment. I was that anxious, clingy kid, right? And God's been healing me. And if he can heal me, he can heal you, okay? Truly he can. But as the victim, as the person who's the subject of this person, there, you know, our own narcissistic self believes that, you know, hey, we're the center of everything. I'm the center of the universe. But you're not. You know what I mean? You're just one more person that this person is abusing. They've abused like many people before you. And, you know, you might be upset like, oh, look, they're going out doing this with this girl, and they're doing this with that child, and they're going out and doing this with this person. They're going out, whatever they're out there doing, right? But you need to know that all these other people are just victims too, just victims of this person. You know, they're not going to change. It's not like they're going to meet this next person and instantly that person's going to be their savior. That person's going to be the perfect scapegoat for them that takes away all of this anger and takes away all this fear and insecurity and lack of trust from their childhood. No one human is capable of doing that. They're not going to come into this magical, mystical relationship. Okay? It's futile, it's vanity, it's vexation, it's like all of this stuff. It's not going to happen. So you don't have to worry about that. They need Jesus. And they're not running to Jesus, you know, like if you're like me, I try to give them Jesus, like, here, take Jesus. Jesus can help you. And they spit in his face, you know, they trampled him down. If somebody's going to trample Jesus down, what do you think they're going to do to you? He's the Son of God. He's Emmanuel. He's God with us. And if they can disrespect him and they don't show him respect, they don't show him loyalty, they don't give him thanks, they think like, you know, like I could take him or leave him. They don't want to bow to Lord Jesus. Like, who do you think you are? Like, what kind of God do you think you are that they're going to give you respect and honor and dignity? No. So just know, right? Just know that you didn't cause it, okay? And you can't fix it. You can't fix it. The only thing you can do is correct your thinking and knowing these things and setting up a plan to get away from this abusive person. And I pray by the power and the blood and the name of Jesus Christ, you're able to do that. Take care. Bye-bye.